The wind off the ocean carried the smell of salt and steel as Petty Officer Sarah Collins stepped onto the naval base in Norfolk, Virginia. Her uniform was crisp, her posture sharp, but her heart carried the weight of years spent fighting battles no one could see. As she walked past a group of younger sailors, whispers followed her like shadows. Their laughter was quiet but sharp enough to cut. "Look at that tattoo," one of them snickered, pointing at the small ink on her wrist, a pair of wings with a single fallen feather. "Guess she thinks she's some kind of hero," another mocked. Sarah heard it, every word. But she didn't turn around. She'd learned long ago that silence often spoke louder than pride. That tattoo wasn't just decoration, it was a memorial, a story of loss, loyalty, and survival carved into her skin. 3 years ago, Sarah had been part of a classified rescue operation in the Pacific. A storm had struck their helicopter as they tried to extract civilians from a sinking vessel. She'd been the only one pulled from the wreckage. Her commanding officer, Captain Ethan Ward, and 3 of her teammates never made it home. That night, in the freezing Black Sea, she'd made a promise: if I live, I'll carry them with me. And so she did. The tattoo of wings belonged to her fallen team, the feather represented the one life that had fallen short. Hers. After recovery, she'd left the Navy. The trauma was too deep, the silence too heavy. But after years of rebuilding herself, through therapy, volunteer work, and sleepless nights, she found her way back. Not to prove anything, but to serve again, this time training recruits in survival and discipline. When she re-enlisted, few knew who she truly was. The younger sailors only saw a quiet, scarred woman with a distant look and a strange tattoo. That morning, the base was alive with the hum of drills and orders being barked. The new recruits were lining up for inspection, and Sarah, assigned as a training advisor, walked past them with calm authority. But whispers followed again. "She doesn't look like she could survive a real op," one muttered. "Maybe the tattoo's all that's tough about her," another said, laughing. Sarah ignored them again, her expression unreadable. But when she turned to demonstrate a maneuver, her sleeve rolled up, revealing not just the tattoo, but the thin, silvery scar that ran down her forearm. It was deep, jagged, and old. A scar from the crash that had nearly taken her life. One of the recruits, a young man named Miller, frowned. "Ma'am, is that from the Pacific missions?" he asked softly. The room went silent. Everyone looked at her. Sarah met his gaze. "Yes," she said simply. "It's from the storm that took our bird down. I was the only one who walked away." The laughter vanished. The recruits shifted uncomfortably, realizing who stood before them. Her name had been whispered in training halls for years: Collins, the ghost survivor. Before anyone could say another word, the hangar doors opened, and a man in full uniform entered. His presence commanded instant silence. Silver stars glinted on his shoulder: General Hawkins, the new base commander. He walked straight towards Sarah. The recruits straightened their backs, unsure of what was about to happen. The general stopped in front of her, eyes sharp yet kind. Then, slowly, his expression softened. "Well, I'll be damned," he said, voice filled with warmth and respect. "Ma'am, welcome back." The entire hangar froze. "Ma'am." The recruits exchanged confused glances. Hawkins extended his hand. "I served under Captain Ward. He spoke of you, said you were the reason anyone ever got out of that ocean alive." Sarah swallowed hard, emotion rising in her chest. "Sir, they didn't make it," she whispered. The general nodded. "No, but you carried them home. That tattoo, it's not for show. It's a flag for the ones who didn't make it back." For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Then Hawkins turned to the recruits. "You see this woman," he said, his voice booming through the hangar. "You laughed at her tattoo. But that ink represents courage, loss, and loyalty, things most people only dream of understanding. So next time you see a mark on someone's skin, remember it might be written in blood, not ink." Every recruit stood frozen, guilt washing over their faces. That night, alone in her quarters, Sarah looked at her wrist. The wings glowed faintly under the soft light. She traced the fallen feather with her thumb, whispering, "I came back, Ethan. I kept my promise." Over the next few weeks, the recruits' behavior changed. They began asking her questions, not mockingly, but respectfully. Miller, the one who had spoken up, asked if she'd teach them survival tactics. Soon, Sarah found herself leading a group that listened, really listened. She taught them not just how to fight or endure but how to lead with honor. One day, during training, Miller stumbled during a climb and fell into the sand. When Sarah reached out to help, he grinned. "Guess I'm not as strong as your generation, ma'am." Sarah smiled softly. "Strength isn't about never falling, Miller. It's about getting back up, no matter what tried to break you." Months passed, and the base grew quieter about tattoos and louder about teamwork. Her story spread, not because she told it, but because others did. On the anniversary of the crash, the recruits gathered in silence near the pier. Without Sarah knowing, they'd had the symbol of her tattoo carved into a small memorial plaque, dedicated to those who flew, those who fell, and those who returned. When Sarah saw it, she didn't speak. Tears glistened in her eyes as she stood at attention, saluting quietly. The ocean breeze brushed against her face, and in that moment, she felt them, her team, her family, standing beside her once more. As she turned to leave, she caught sight of the new recruits standing tall, their sleeves rolled up. Several of them had inked a small wing on their wrist, in her honor. Sarah smiled. For the first time in years, the laughter on base didn't sting. It was warm, full of life. Because now, she knew, they weren't laughing at her anymore. They were laughing with her. And somewhere deep in her soul, the general's words echoed once more, proud, unwavering, and true. "Ma'am, welcome back."